Number 1. Okay, this happened back in the early 90s when I was 16. I'm from a town in the Midwest that is nothing but junkies, and most family trees go straight up with no branches, so creepy weird people are a normal thing there. I used to go to this creepy little gas station a few blocks from my house, because they sold cigarettes to minors and I needed smokes. Note, I am not a tiny female. I'm 5'11" and can handle my own, so not much creeps me out. I walked down there with no problems, but it was the walk back home that became one of the creepiest things I've been through. And I have seen some creepy things. I was minding my own, smoking my cigarette, walking home. I normally just watch the local two-legged wildlife and mind my own business. Now, keep in mind, outside of my town there used to be the county farm, a small place which basically let people come and go. Well, the gas station is behind the apartment building which the county farm used to house people at when they finished the program there. Some of the people were nice, others you had to really watch. I was walking by there and saw this guy duck out of the alley, head down, hood up, backpack and hands in pockets. Okay, again, no big deal. I thought he was one of the people that lived there, so I kept walking and thought nothing of it. Until I got off the main road and he was still behind me. Okay, kind of creepy, but still not worrying. I started walking faster and he picked up the pace. Great, he's still there. So I turned down another block and so does he. Well, I didn't have many options, so going home was better than getting caught in one of these neighbourhoods, because no one is going to come out and help you. I looked back and made sure he saw me looking at him. He looked me dead in the eyes, and he just looked like he had dead eyes. No joy, no soul, nothing. That's what creeped me out the most. I'm down the street from my house now, so I figured if I had to cause a scene, my mum or grandmother would hear my big mouth. I turned the corner, and so does he, but he's probably less than 2 feet behind me now. Stuff this, I'm running like I'm on fire. I bolted down the block. Who says fat girls can't jump? I didn't hit a single stair on the way in my house. Now mind you, my mum and grandma were kind of paranoid about everything anyways, so when I bolted through the door and locked it, it drew attention. So I told my grandma what happened, and we peeked out the window. This time he's walking down the crossroad, still looking at my house. I told her about him following me from the store and that he kept getting closer and closer. She told me to stay in the house. He'd go away. Damn skippy I'm staying in the house. Nothing was going to make me go out and deal with him ever again. So, fast forward to that evening. I was eating dinner with my grandma and she loved that show, America's Most Wanted. Not paying attention really, until they started telling the story about the next guy they were featuring. I don't know why, I all of a sudden started paying attention. They showed a picture of the guy, and guess who it was? My creepy follower. I literally started choking on my food. My grandma looks at me, and all I could get out was that's the guy. That was the guy who was following me. She went ghost white. I started having a panic attack and blocked out what the show was saying. My grandma writes down the 800 number they are showing on the TV and turns the channel. I pull myself together and she hands me the number and tells me to call. So I call and start stuttering and crying. Poor lady who had to answer my call, what a saint for having to deal with me. So, I explained to her the story, didn't catch his name, but described him to a T and told her where I lived. She told me to lay low and keep the doors locked. No problem, lady, not planning to invite him to dinner or anything. So, being 16 and a really social person, I blocked it out and went back to living my life. I'm thinking they caught him somewhere close to our area because I was talking about it to a friend and my grandma went ghost white again. She never told me the details of what happened or exactly what he was wanted for. I just know, of all the creeps I've attracted in my life, that was one I could have lived without. America's most unwanted man? Let's not ever meet.
Number 2. When I was in the 3rd grade, I lived in a fairly well-off town, but my house was pretty small. I'd come home after school so the door wasn't locked, and I was eating snacks when my mum, my little brother, and I heard a car pull up to our driveway. It was one of those cheap ones, and it was red. I went to the living room window to see who it was, because we weren't expecting any guests, and nobody we knew had a red car like that. I saw an average-sized Asian woman walk up my front steps. My mum approached the door to get ready for this person, thinking maybe it was one of those ladies that distributed church pamphlets or something. But this woman just straight up opens our door. Remember, it wasn't locked, without even ringing the doorbell. My mum is really shocked, and when the woman comes into the house, she just yells, "Why are you in my house?" And the woman hesitates and replies, "I was looking for Barbara or something." She talks like Barbara was a close acquaintance, but if Barbara really was her friend, why would she come to our house? She'd probably know her own friend's house, right? And none of our neighbours were named Barbara. We never seen this car on our street either. So the woman just turned around and left. Later on, our family thought she was one of those low-class robbers that somehow didn't know that there were people inside my house. I mean, my mum's car was in the freaking driveway. Not as creepy as the others, but strange Asian lady, let's not meet.
Number 3. I am a 21-year-old female, and this story took place when I was a freshman in high school. I was gravely disappointed when I learned of my stepsister's engagement to Kevin. Kevin had many issues and was constantly bragging about himself, his cooking abilities, his athletic prowess, etc., etc. But that's beside the point. He had very recently been divorced and had 2 children from his previous marriage. Crystal, the oldest, was about 4 during that time. She had a very kind face and acted mild-mannered and sweet around us. Matt, the baby, was probably 1 year or 18 months old. He had chubby little cheeks and blonde wispy hair, and was always toddling around, falling and bumping into things, sustaining bruises along the way. Over the course of their brief marriage, Kevin and Julie, my stepsister, would be awakened during the night by the sounds of Matt's screams. They would race into his room to console him, unable to find the source of his fear. Kevin happened to work in a sleep clinic and assumed his son was suffering from night terrors. Kevin and Julie discussed their concerns with Kevin's ex-wife Monica, who shared custody of the children. As it turned out, Matt was plagued by night terrors at his mother's house as well. She too was awakened almost every night by his blood-curdling wail. She decided to install a camera in his room to record him sleeping. In the morning, after yet another night terror, Monica reviewed the footage her camera had caught, She watched Matt's bedroom door open, revealing Crystal in her princess pajamas, dragging a plastic toy baseball bat behind her. Crystal approached Matt's crib, pressed a finger against her lips to silence him, and hissed,
"You better not tell anyone. I hate you. I hate you."
She then proceeded to beat him repeatedly with the baseball bat before shushing him once more and retreating from the room, closing the door behind her. I don't know what preventive measures were taken after Kevin and Julie learned about Crystal, because I wasn't aware of the situation until after their divorce. We always thought Matt's bruises were just accidents.
Number 4. Back when I was 7 or so, I shared a room with our sister. We didn't have a screen on our window, and every night our cat would scratch on the window to be let in. One night, I heard the familiar scratching, so I got up to let the cat in. When I opened the blinds, a man was standing directly in front of our window, staring at us. He was very gaunt looking, kind of Richard Ramirez-esque. Anyways, I calmly left the room to get my parents. Why I didn't wake my sister up, but rather left her there like a sitting duck, I will never know. My dad ran out of the house and looked around, but he didn't see anyone. He said it must have been my imagination, but then he saw some footsteps in the dirt in front of our window. He called my uncle, who was the chief of police at the time, and my uncle came to our house. But he said that since there was no one else around to witness it, and the man himself was gone, there was not much else that could be done. He never came around again, but that was probably one of the scariest things to ever happen to me.
Number 5. When I was younger, my friend and I were playing in his garden. We always preferred to hang out at his house because he lived on a farm, which meant we had much more room to do stupid kid stuff. Behind his house, there's a large woodland area. We were never allowed to go out there during the time the story happened, as we were only 7 and his parents were worried that we'd get hurt or get lost. Needless to say, that we went into the woods all the time. We never went far, just the usual, climbing trees and using branches to reenact our favourite scenes from Star Wars. It wasn't unusual to see other people walking their dogs and whatnot. One day, we went there and were just having fun when we heard somebody say,
"Excuse me,"
from behind. We turned around and saw this oldish guy stood there with a camera. He didn't look creepy or suspicious in any way, which is probably why we weren't very cautious. He told us that he was a scout leader and was taking some pictures of woodland areas for a local newspaper. He then asked if he could take our picture, as he thought it would make a good picture for the paper. Blinded by the idea of becoming celebrities, we of course agreed and asked him what newspaper the pictures would be in. So, we waited and waited, but the pictures never appeared in the newspaper. We told our parents, who were obviously distraught, that 1, we went into the woods, and 2, there's some creepy guy out there with photos of us on his camera. I can't help but shudder when I think back on how blind to possible danger I was as a kid.
Number 6. It was my first winter break of my first semester of college. I was living in the dorms and all my roommates and friends had gone home for Christmas. One night, I heard a knock at the door. It was around midnight, but it wasn't uncommon for students to be up and about. I'm a total extrovert and being alone was getting me down, so I was excited thinking one of my friends had popped over to visit me. I opened the door. It wasn't one of my friends, but some guy I had never seen. He walked right past me into my dorm, and sat on the couch. I know, I should have stopped him, but it happened so fast and I stupidly didn't want to be rude. "Hey," he said. He asked my name and started asking about who my roommates were. When I said their names to him, he said he knew them and he had come by to say hello. Right there, I realized how fishy that was. He said he didn't know who lived there, but 2 seconds later, he claimed he came over to say hello. No, this was weird. And I was all alone with him. "Oh well, it's late, you should go," I said. "Can I just sleep on your couch?" "No, my roommates wouldn't like that." "Are they home?" "They'd be fine, just let me sleep here." "No." At this point, I got a weird feeling. He became very insistent about staying and kept asking if anyone was home. I started to care less about being polite. "No, you need to go. My roommates are sleeping and they don't like having strangers stay over. You need to go, now." Reluctantly, he got up and slowly shuffled out. To this day, I get a weird feeling thinking about it. How he kept asking if anyone was there, and how he planted himself to the couch, wanting to stay. Yeah, he may have just been a harmless student who actually knew my roommates, but I never saw him again. And my roommates didn't know anyone matching his description either.
Number 7. My brother was diagnosed with noctambulism, or sleepwalking, from an early age. He stopped from the ages of 6 to 14, but when he was 15, it started again. I used to witness him get up from his bed, we shared a room, in the middle of the night and calmly make his way into the kitchen and start banging pans together or trying to open the front door, which concerns me the most, seeing that the place that we live in is not the safest neighbourhood in LA. I told my mum, and he began taking medication, which helped a lot. I thought my getting up in the middle of the night to lead my brother back to his bed nights were over, until one Friday. During that particular hot Friday night, I woke up drenched in my own sweat. As I threw all my blankets down on the ground below, I looked over towards my brother's bed, and to my dismay, he wasn't there. I groaned as I got up, listening with all my might for his whereabouts. I checked the kitchen, Mum's bedroom, and the bathroom in total darkness, since the electricity was off for some reason, which I still blame on the heat wave. Not seeing him in any of those rooms, I checked the last place left, the door leading to outside. I made my way to the door, and he wasn't there. I began getting anxiety, not knowing what to do. As a last failed attempt, I moved closer to the door and peeked through the peephole, and to my utter disbelief and relief, there stood my brother. I remember barely making out his figure, since the light in the outside hallways had gone out too, most likely because of the heat wave. But, sure enough, there he was. He was facing the opposite way, his back towards me, and I thought I distinctly made out his Walmart bought superhero t-shirt he always wore. Me, having done this before, followed my usual drill and slowly led him through the living room and through the long hallway leading to our bedroom. I opened the door and started making my way towards his bed to lay him down, when I accidentally slipped on one of my blankets that I had previously thrown aside, letting out a scream as I hit the ground with a thump. And that's when I heard a familiar voice. My brother's, asking me what was going on. His head popped out from the other side of his bed. Apparently, he had been laying peacefully on the ground out of sight this whole time. I asked him recently why, and he said because it was too hot in his bed, but too cold on our wooden floor. My body went limp and my heart started racing as I looked up at the person next to me, looking down at me. My brother quickly realised what was going on, even though he was under medication, and tried to launch at the stranger, but to no avail. The stranger swiftly moved out of the way and broke into a run, making his way out of our 2-bedroom apartment, as I pleaded with my brother to let him go. As the intruder made his way out of our 2-bedroom apartment, he began laughing hysterically and muttering stuff. I may have misheard, but I remember distinctly hearing my name. Soon after that, my mum got off work early after our phone call, and she later called the police, but they weren't much help. 2 weeks later, we moved out of there, even though all that was a long time ago, and my brother and I joked around about it sometimes. At night, I'm still left wondering, who was that creep, and if he really did know my name? And if so, had I met him before? His laugh did sound familiar, but it was impossible for me to pinpoint where. Anyway, creepy boy I thought was my brother and let me lead him through my apartment without saying a word. Let's not meet again. Hi guys, Shaf here. I hope you enjoyed that video. It was a collaboration with ImBazi, and it was his first Scary Stories video. If you enjoy gaming videos and tutorials, make sure to head over to his channel and subscribe. There is a link to his channel in the description box below. Also, I have now reached 5,000 subscribers. Yay! Thank you to everyone who subscribed and liked my videos. Also, thank you to everyone who's commented. I love reading your comments. And remember, as always, stay sinister.